Welcome back to Alive and Well Community's Daily Dose, your daily dose of support. And as we continue building out that self care toolkit, today we're going to talk about the power of reading and just the wonderful escape that reading provides, whether you're a tiny reader or whether you're a more experienced reader. And today, with us sharing more about reading, we have Sheila. Hi, Sheila. Thank you so much for joining us, Sheila. Now, I want to share just a little bit with you about Sheila, that Sheila is currently the Literacy and Curriculum Coordinator for a local organization. She's got more than 30 years of experience in working with preschool-aged children and families. And in addition to that, she's also written several curricula, including a childhood arts curriculum for a local agency. She's the resident trauma informed coordinator for her organization. She's a longtime writer talking about children, parents working with their children, and she's also a local advocate who really works to ensure that there's access to early childhood education for all children in our region. Sheila, thank you so very much for joining us. And I know ever since you and I have known each other, you've shared your passion for reading with us. Can you share with us a little bit more about the power of reading, something that we can do whether we're alone or with our families?
Reading for me has always been an important part of my life from my childhood, when it was what I like to call chaotic. There was a lot of abuse and different things going on. And so reading for me from a very early age became a tool to relieve stress. It was my distraction. It was my escape from reality. And I think in these uncertain times, children are feeling the stress that their parents and families are feeling. Their routines have been disrupted. And so I think reading with your child is one way to really help them cope and feel better and provide more of a sense of normalcy, but it actually can serve exactly the same purpose for adults also. I know in my crazy daily life, I am so tuned into work and everything else and what I have to do and my family that I often just zone out in the evening playing games on my phone because it's mindless and I don't have to think about it. But this extended kind of working from home period has allowed me to really go back to all the books that I've been wanting to read. And it has really taken me back to that kind of cocoon that I remember from my childhood. So, we're talking about self-care and things we can do. And I think finding a comfy chair and a cup of coffee or a tea and giving yourself the gift of an hour just to read and relax can really, really help all of us.
Now, when you say reading, does that mean like reading the latest on the economy and, those news articles?
No, part of my self-care is that I have turned off the news. I know I'm connected in many other ways, but tuning out of broadcast news, television news has been an important part of my own self-care. I have a few trusted news organization sites that I visit that I feel are actually still practicing journalism and giving facts. And I can keep up on what I need to keep up with there. But no, what I'm talking about reading is totally disconnected from, not to say that you can't read fiction or nonfiction during this time, but I'm talking about just reading for pleasure, getting back to that childhood joy of opening up a book and letting that magic out, right? That's contained within there. Because when you're reading, you're engaging not just your sense of vision and your mental processing, but you're really letting your imagination go and letting your imagination have its own turn in the spotlight. And that's what we need. We need now more than ever a chance to disconnect from
Mm,
the reality, because the reality right now is so unknown, right? So let's
absolutely.
channel our focus from feeling like we're in the middle of a whirlpool where we have no control to, I'm going to sit down and deliberately immerse myself in a story and or in a topic that interests me, that is not dealing with today, right now, outside my quarantine door.
No, and it's really important to note just how powerful reading can be, especially when we read for pleasure, that it can be such a stress reliever for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other good thing about reading is that while it can be seen as a stress reliever, there are so many more things you can accomplish, so many more ways to use reading as a tool. Um, you can, especially if you're home with children, I know that we've all become homeschool parents, in the last few weeks, and that in itself brings on a lot of stress because it's something that most people are not equipped to do, nor do they feel comfortable, or they would have become teachers in the first place. Um, so, this added demand on the adults in children's lives is really going to possibly heighten the emotions of everybody involved, the parents and the kids. So you can use books and reading with your children as a tool to help them identify the emotions that they're feeling. We know that if you are talking with children anywhere from the ages of 3 to 5, and you say, what are three different feelings? Most kids can tell you mad, sad, and happy. And those are really the only three that they have words for. And yet, children are filled with emotions at every moment of every day. And so, when you read with your child, any kind of fictional story, the characters are experiencing emotions, because that's what you need for a fictional story. You need a beginning, a middle, and an end, but you also need conflict and conflict resolution. And with conflict comes, ding, 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 emotions. So when you're reading with your child, look for those emotion cues and talk about those while you're reading, because that can really allow kids who might be afraid to let on that they're struggling, or let on that they're unsure, but are carrying that anxiety within. If they see another character experiencing it, they may be able to talk about the character's issues if they don't feel safe talking about their own. So, it's just a really great tool. And also, when you're reading with your child, I think as parents, we often feel like we have to present ourselves as, I've got this under control. Have no fear, mommy's here or daddy's here, right? But really, I think what kids need to know that we are struggling with the same things. They need to feel like we have their back, but it's really okay to let them see you, or let them hear you, especially say things like, oh, he seems worried about that. Sometimes I get worried too, and your child will probably go, really? You get worried? Yeah, I get worried. I worry about, I worry about you. I worry about different things. So let them see you as not perfect and not really together all the time, because that will make them much more able to show their own vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and just the ability to feel not alone in experiencing those emotions, and
Absolutely.
that it validates them.
Absolutely. And they don't have to feel ashamed of
Yeah.
having these feelings. If they feel like experiencing emotions is a weakness, instead of it's just
Mhm.
part of everything that happens to every person, right?
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about this quarantine, yes, there are beautiful things about this quarantine, is that this is really a gift that we as parents have been given to spend time with our children, really kind of hunkering down together and spending real time looking into each other's eyes and sharing real connecting moments with them. It's really a gift.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, and I love that powerful reframe of how do we see the silver lining in this,
Yeah.
that we have the opportunity. Yeah, there are all these stressors around us, but how can we build that safety within and
Right.
create a new reality right
Right.
there for our family and children's as we explore the world of reading?
And the thing is that, in 40 years, when our children are grown and they're looking back on this time, they're not necessarily going to remember the horror of the pandemic that was hitting the world because they're really too young to grasp the enormity of that. What they will remember that time when you were home from work and we built a fort in the living room with all the couch cushions. Remember that time when we sat down and we read all of the Harry Potter stories. Remember when those are the things that they're going to remember because those are the things that are going to imprint on their long-term psyche, right? It's how you made them feel during this time. I felt safe. I felt close. I had my mom and dad's attention. We did fun things together. Those are the things kids remember. They don't remember all the minutia. So, as I said, this really is a gift. Please realize that and take the time to build some amazing memories for your children to come.
And while we're thinking of not just creating memories and those last a lifetime, I always am surprised by how much I learn, even when reading, whether it's something fiction and for fun, or maybe it's something like a memoir, that it just enhances my learning as well.
Absolutely. And that, again, is an escape. That's why I say it doesn't have to be a work of fiction. My husband doesn't like reading fiction necessarily, but he really devours historical biographies and just different things like that. So but again, immersing yourself in that topic, even though it's not a fantasy, but immersing yourself in something other than, oh my gosh, I can't leave my house. Okay. I know that you can't leave your house is a really big deal for some people, my husband included. And, finding ways to distract his mind, because that's a mind problem. That's not a physical problem if I can't leave my house. And I'm saying that for those of us who don't have medical emergencies and things like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not leaving your house is a big deal for many people. But for those of us who are lucky enough to not have those issues where we are letting you can't go outside, you can't go to the hardware store, you can't go to the grocery store. For those of us that is the issue, you just need to distract yourself from thinking about that. And what better way than books?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know a lot of parents are worried because, as you mentioned, children are having their routines disrupted. While they might not grasp what's going on, they're highly intuitive, and so they know something's going on. And we know that our stress as caregivers is also contagious. That while we think we may be hiding it well, our children can sense that, right?
And our pets.
And our pets, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, how is it that we can use reading then to really support children during this time?
Well, and beyond the positives of escape and building memories by reading these books together and spending this family time. Um, as I said, also a lot of parents, a lot of have been thrown suddenly into the teaching role. And, I know that a lot of teachers are working. First of all, hats off to all teachers and daycare workers. You guys
Absolutely.
are keeping this country going, and they are right up there with firemen and police and everybody else. So, but anyway, so teachers are working extremely hard to try to continue staying connected to their kids, because when you're a teacher, those 20 kids are your kids for the entire year. And it's affecting teachers, especially because they have had no closure to their school year. And so they are working incredibly hard to try to come up with a whole new way of teaching that they have never been involved in before, which is added stress big time on them. But they're sending home tools and ideas and curriculum ideas and things like that, so that your child doesn't have an unexpected, maybe 2 or 3 month lapse in learning. But especially for younger children, even really, I don't know, I want to say up through 3rd or 4th grade, if you get back to basics, and I don't mean worksheets and I don't mean flashcards, I mean going outside in your backyard and throwing yourself down on the ground and digging a hole and seeing what's inside, and then talking about that, and then maybe drawing pictures of the things that you saw. These are learning experiences. But the way you can use books as learning experiences is look for the STEAM concepts. We hear a lot about STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. I talk about STEAM because that includes arts, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, because arts are just as important a learning tool and a learning topic as everything else. And it's also the best way to get your kids engaged. And so books tie into that. I can show you almost any children's book. Here is The Little Red Hen. And it not only has opportunities to talk about emotions, but there are opportunities to talk about science, opportunities to talk about math, opportunities to, discover different parts of art. Then you can actually do creative activities around it, whether it's cooking, which again is math and science. You can do crafty things, making stuff with paper and glue and scissors. But there are all sorts of ways to use books in this time to fill those gaps where kids don't feel like, I have to sit down and for 2 hours, look at a screen and do math or fill out worksheets or whatever has been provided. There are other more interactive ways of teaching that will really get kids invested and involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know that you want to talk us through kind of how to support parents in this new role of being educators, and some things to draw to their forefront. And so I want to make sure that we have the time to not only, get to hear your expertise, but also time for you to read us a story as well.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, I work with teachers a lot. I give a lot of professional development workshops. First of all, helping teachers understand what trauma looks like, and how they themselves may be dealing with trauma before they enter the classroom.
Mhm.
And then how that is heightened, how they're having the responsibility for 20 other people, little people, heightens that sense of anxiety that they may already be dealing with in life, and kind of helping them understand a few things that they can do to help lower children's anxiety levels just about being in school, which
Mhm.
will then allow the children to function better and get out of that reptilian brain. When kids are feeling anxiety, when teachers are feeling anxiety, when anyone is feeling anxiety, we know that, that prefrontal cortex just shuts off, right? And we are reacting not really interacting. And so it's important, I think, for parents as well to understand what can you do during these uncertain times to help your child feel a more overall sense of calm, which will allow them to actually take in information and learn and really be thinking on a higher level instead of being frozen in, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do because my routine is gone. Do you have some slides there, Sean?
I do.
Okay. So the first thing that I want to tell parents is that probably the biggest thing you can do for your children is provide a sense of structure, because they need to be able to anticipate what's coming next. In their classrooms, they have a schedule printed up on the wall that has pictures that go with it for those who don't read, to be able to anticipate at what part of the day are we right now, and how much longer do we have to go before it's finished. So the best thing that you can do is establish a daily routine. And I don't mean it has to be, down to the minute, but you have to form some sense of routine for your child, and then engage your kids in coming up with this routine. Say, well, what do we usually do first? The more you can have them engaged in the process of doing this, the more they will feel ownership over it, and the more they will feel in control. And that's what they're really looking for, is they're looking for ways to feel like they have some control and some certainty. So go online and download pictures. Say you decide that the morning time is going to be for playing with Legos. So go online and download a picture of Legos and cut it out and put it at the top of a poster board. And then after that, maybe you'll have a snack. Find that also. There you go. But let your child be engaged in making the schedule, finding the pictures, and all of that stuff. I want to make sure that you schedule some family imagination time every day, because that, again, is the part that they're really going to remember. That time when you all got together and focused on each other and just played. Many adults have lost that sense of wonder and have allowed adulting to get in the way of using their imagination. I myself am not a big fan of adulting, although I find it necessary. And so, make a card in your schedule that says family imagination time or something like that. And then make sure that you commit to keeping that date. Don't let yourself say, oh, well, we can do that tomorrow. No. Today is here. I'm going to make the most of it. Don't just think of one day at a time, but make a weekly plan. You can do this on Sundays and say, okay, the week ahead, what are we going to do? We know what we do on an everyday schedule, but let's think of one day. Maybe it's Wacky Wednesday or Fun Day Friday, but pick a day during the week where you're going to have, specific things that you're going to try to do, something new maybe every week, whether it's while we're allowed to still go out in our cars, maybe drive through Lone Elk Park, or take a walk in a different park than you've been to before. Something like that. Make slime, although you probably don't want to make slime. But the internet is an amazing tool. You can Google almost anything that is happening in your child's classroom at school. Ask them, what's your favorite thing to do at school? And then see if there's a way that you can recreate that in your house. So make that a Friday Fun Day activity or a Wacky Wednesday activity. The second part, besides developing routine, the second point that, again, we've already kind of talked about it, but is we want to take this time to really think about emotional literacy and using a daily story time, just like you're going to have a daily family imagination time, have a daily story time. As I mentioned earlier, kids really don't have the words that they need all the time to communicate the myriad feelings that they're experiencing. And so the only way to fix that is by giving them the words. How many times have we as parents or teachers said, use your words? Don't let your temper get the better of you. Use your words. But that's really almost like rubbing salt in the wound if a child doesn't know the words that they need. And the only way kids build this foundation of emotion words is through discussion and talking and reading stories and having the opportunity to not just learn the words, but learn the meanings of the words by hearing them in context. So some of these books that Sean has up on the screen right now, these are great books that you can explore with your children. The Way I Feel down there on the bottom talks about specific emotion words like frustrated, and it gives a silly picture and a short poem about what that word means and how it might make you feel. Up at the top, we've got Howard Wigglebottom, who is a bunny who struggles with his behavior in school. And so this is, again, one of those books that if your child is one who is constantly, being asked to check their behavior, this is a story that your child may really enjoy because you can talk about those specific behaviors that he or she needs to work on. But talk about how Howard needs to work on them, not your specific child. Where the Wild Things Are is a great story because it's a classic. But it really shows us a child's meltdown and how overwhelming it is. If you're familiar with that book, the pictures all start out very small and then they grow and grow and grow, and they take over the entire book and they spill off the page as the child is kind of having a meltdown. And then as he gets it all back together again, it becomes more contained and he can handle it. So it's a pretty amazing book. Take some time to check that out. Stregonona is another book with a character who makes some not so wise decisions and has to deal with the repercussions of that. So again, it's a great book that you can say, uh-oh, do you think that's a good choice he's making? And, how does he feel when this happens and stuff like that. So those are all great choices. There are millions of good choices out there. And, but those are just some that you can use right there. While you're reading these stories with your kids and you're trying to draw them out through conversation about different emotions, remember what we spoke about earlier, which is that you want your child to understand that you also have emotions that need attention. And so, if one of the 10,000 times a day your child comes to you and says, I need this, I need, and then you can just kind of take a deep breath and let your child see that you are deliberately taking a deep breath and blowing it out and saying, I need you to be patient with me right now. I'm feeling a little anxious. And again, kids are all about themselves. That is part of being a child. That's what they're supposed to be about. So we need to help them understand the concept of empathy and patience. And but we need to do it in gentle ways where they really can take in that understanding and learning. And again, if you show your child that you are struggling and coping, and you are open about how you cope, and you include them in coping, that is going to really make a huge difference, not just during this time, but as you and your child grow through your relationship. And, one other thing that I want to mention is that Emotions really can have a physical effect on our bodies. I know that when I was young and I was struggling with so much anxiety, that I ended up in the hospital a couple of times with these just debilitating stomach pains. And, they were doing all sorts of tests and things, and it wasn't my appendix, yada, yada, yada. And it was determined that they were going to say it was colitis because that was sort of a catch-all for, whatever. Unfortunately, that was interpreted by my parents as psychosomatic attention-getting behavior. But there's no doubt that when we are feeling anxiety, it can affect our bodies in biological ways. So help your child understand that, because if they can understand that you're feeling it, then they will be better able to tune into what they're feeling. So when you're reading these stories and it comes to stressful situations or disappointment or frustration or any of those words, make that mind and body connection for them verbally. I know that sometimes when I don't feel good, my tummy hurts. What about you? And then the third point that I wanted to make about helping your kids and helping yourself at the same time is, I mentioned it just a moment ago, which is to begin practicing as a family different methods of achieving calm. So we want you to model these methods by doing it with your child. We want you to teach these to your child, because by doing them together, they will learn this, and then make this a part of your daily practice, not just now, but beyond now. That is going to go so far in helping your child learn to be able to manage their emotions in school, which is a gigantic piece of the puzzle for school success. Kids are taken out of the classroom and taken away from their peers because they don't have the self-management skills that they need. And we can really use this intensive time together to help prepare our children to be successful, not just now, but in the future. So Sean has some different techniques up here. Oh, go back, please. So some different techniques to help that you can all do together. The first one we use, and again, we use this to use these techniques with their children. We also share these techniques with all of the Head Start centers, the public school Head Start programs, the daycare centers that we work with. These are all tips that we give them. And they are all tips that I used when I was teaching in the classroom over those years. So the first one is pretty simple. It's called Stretch and Breathe. And it is just that simple. There's no specific routine that you have to do. It is just a realization that if your child is looking like they can't sit still, or is looking like they're working their way up to some kind of meltdown, the best thing to do is get their mind focused on something else, distract them, and get their bodies moving, because for many, many children and adults alike, movement is the best reaction to stress. So just get up and pretend you're a tree and stretch your limbs way up high, or pretend you're a frog and do some froggy hops around the living room. But while you're doing this, make sure that you're taking some deep breaths and doing some mindful breathing before and after these activities. The second one that's listed there is blowing out your birthday candles. I've yet to meet any child who doesn't like to pretend it's their birthday. And you can sing the happy birthday song first if you want to make it more genuine. But basically what this is you hold up as many fingers as your child is. So let's say your child is 3 years old. You hold up 3 fingers and you say, these are my birthday candles. And we're going to take some deep breaths, and then we're going to blow out the candles one at a time. So, as I always explain to if you can split that screen, Sean, then I can kind of show how I do this with kids. So I always say, when we take a deep breath, we take it in through our nose like this. And then when we blow it out through our mouth like this. Like we're blowing out birthday candles. So here are my 3 birthday candles. Let's blow out the birthday candles. Let's do this one first, shall we? Here we go. Deep breath in. Blow it out. Oh, good job. All right. How many do we have left? 2. It's math and breathing. I'm telling you, it's a one-stop shop. Here we go. Let's do this one next. Now we have 1 left. So if you do that, then it gets the kids, it's a fun way. They can be thinking about something else. You're taking them out of the immediate, I'm losing my cool. And it gets them focused on something pleasant, and it helps calm their heart rate down by doing the deep breathing exercises.
Now, Sheila, we're running a little bit low on time, and I know many of our viewers are excited about you reading a story.
Okay.
Can we just quickly look at these last 2 points that you have for?
Absolutely. So blowing up a balloon is a pantomime of blowing up a balloon. Simple as that. So again, I just mentioned that movement is a natural antidote to anxiety for many kids. So here are some really great books from Amazon right now if you want to start using them in your practice every day. Little Monkey Calms Down is a great calm down time are both really good books to actually take your child through that process of feeling anxious and feeling upset, and then using mindful breathing to make themselves feel better. We have a couple of yoga books there that just give very simple yoga techniques and poses that you can do with kids. Go on to the next one, Sean, please. And then this is my favorite for distraction. It has nothing to do with calming emotions or breathing, but these are simply stories that will take your child out of right now, stuck in the house, and may give you as a family ideas about ways to build off of what's in the story to create some family magic of your own. So we have This Is Not a Stick. We have a story about building a fort using stuff in your house. Harold's Trip to the Sky. You're all probably familiar with Harold and the Purple Crayon, but you may not know that there are many other Harold books. So again, reading a story like that could take you into all kinds of art explorations. The cute one next to that about use your imagination is a kind of a twisted fairy tale idea. Olivia at the Circus. Oh my gosh, you can put on your own circus in your house using things you have there. Dinosaurs and whatever next, and Up, Down, and Around are just all really fun stories that a lot of them rhyme. One of them uses photographs and just gets kids' imaginations turned on. And do yourself a favor and turn yours on too at the same time.
So what story are you going to be reading to us today?
Today I thought I would read a classic, because this is a story that you may have, maybe not this version of this story, but you may have this story. At Ready Readers, we always do one classic. We give away one classic book a year to the 10,000 kids in our program, because we think it's important to keep the classics alive. So this is one of the books we gave away a few years ago. It's The Little Red Hen by Mary Finch. She's the author. That means she wrote the words. And Kate Slater is the illustrator. She made the pictures. Let's begin. Once upon a time, a rooster, a mouse, and a little red hen lived together in a small brown house with a red roof. I see the mouse. I see the little red hen, and oh, there's the rooster. One day, the little red hen found a grain of wheat lying on the ground. "Look what I've found," she said to the rooster and the mouse. "I will plant it in the earth. Who will help me?" Oh, do you think they're going to help her plant that seed? Let's see. She scratched the earth and planted the grain. "Who will help me water it?" asked the little red hen. "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And she did. She watered the earth and waited for the wheat to grow. The sun shone and the wheat grew tall and straight. When the ear of wheat was golden, she asked, "Who will help me harvest it?" What do you think they said? "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. How do you think that made her feel? Here she was so excited about doing this, and they don't want to help. I bet that made her feel disappointed. I think maybe they were being selfish. I don't know. What do you think? "Who will help me harvest the wheat?" "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And she did. She picked the ear of wheat and put it in a basket. "Who will help me take it to the mill to be ground into flour?" asked the little red hen. I think we might know what they're going to say this time. Do you think they're going to help now? "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. The miller ground the ear of wheat into fine white flour. "Who will help me make this flour into dough?" asked the little red hen. This is going to be fun. Do you think they're going to get involved now? Making bread is fun. "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I'll do it myself," said the little red hen. And she did. She mixed the flour into warm, yeasty dough. "Who will help me knead this dough into bread?" asked the little red hen. Surely they're going to help with this part. It's like playing with Play-Doh. Who doesn't want to do that? "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I'll do it myself." How do you think she's feeling now? Do you think she's getting a little frustrated with her friends? She kneaded the dough again, left it to rise, then shaped it into a round, shiny loaf. "Who will help me put this loaf into the oven?" asked the little red hen. "Not I," said the rooster. "Not I," said the mouse. "Then I'll do it myself." She put the loaf into the oven to bake. When it was ready, she took out the warm, crusty loaf. "Who will help me eat this tasty, fresh bread?" asked the little red hen. What do you think they're going to say now? "I will," said the rooster. "I will," said the mouse. Look, they've got their forks ready to go. What do you think the little red hen's going to say? "No, you won't," said the little red hen. "I shall eat it myself." And she did. "Oh," said the rooster. "Oh," said the mouse. "You didn't help me, so I ate it myself." How do you think they feel now? Do you think they're sorry that they didn't help? Do you think you'd be sorry if you missed out on that good bread? So the next time the little red hen found a grain of wheat lying on the ground, the rooster scratched the earth and planted the grain. The mouse watered the earth, and together the rooster, the mouse, and the little red hen watched the wheat grow tall and straight. Together, they took the wheat to the miller to grind it into flour, and together they mixed the flour to make the dough. And when the bread was ready, the rooster and the mouse and the little red hen sat down together and ate the nice warm loaf. And it was delicious. One of the reasons I love this version of this story is because some Little Red Hen stories versions have Little Red Hen letting them eat it even though they didn't help. and some of them have her eating it herself. But I like this one because she gave them a second chance. And that's, I think, that's a discussion that you can really have with kids and say, you know, sometimes I've made mistakes and I was so happy I had a second chance because I learned something from that mistake. So again, it's turning our mistakes into learning experiences. If we're not making mistakes, we're not learning. So that's my story for you today. When we're finished with this, I will put a couple of links for some Ready Reader story times on your Alive and Well page so your viewers can access them if they like.
Well, for your daily dose challenge, we've got a couple of different opportunities for you today. So, our
Okay.
first challenge for you today is to find time for your own reading, but make sure it's reading for your pleasure that allows you that escape and all those benefits that Sheila mentioned earlier. The next opportunity we have is in addition to Sheila posting some children's stories, we also have a Live and Well staff who are going to post some children's stories. And we also encourage you to find a children's story that you love, read it, record it, and share it to our Facebook page so others can access it as well. So we can share the power of these stories with everyone. So Sheila, thank you so very, very much for joining us today. And you know, the power of reading and story time is phenomenal. And I have to say that when I need a break from adulting, I also love picking up a children's book. So thank you so very much for joining us.
Thanks for
And,
having me.
and for you out there viewing, please make sure that you take time for that daily dose of support for yourself. Share this with someone else who may need that daily dose of support, and be sure to tune in tomorrow. Thanks so much.